just terrible.
Welcome back, Hack City. Joe DeLeone and Sean Anderson, two former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. Today, we are going to be recapping the Week 7 action of college football. A lot of shakeups, a lot of unexpected outcomes, particularly what happened with Notre Dame versus USC. We're going to be talking about Oregon, Washington, and then, of course, some thoughts on this UNC Miami game, as well as some stupidity that is involved with some teams, the likes of Tennessee, Air Force, Iowa, you name it. Sean, I know that you're definitely feeling it right now. We finished our trip to South Dakota. We're not going to do the trip recap today. We're going to do that on the FCS show because more of our FCS listeners are going to want to hear about that, not the FBS listeners per se. But you woke up at the crack of dawn. I woke up at 3 a.m. my body clock time. Surprisingly chipper, though. I don't know how. I don't
Fumes, just running on them.
Hell yeah.
It's all it is.
Those are usually the best shows. I know my bank account is running on fumes, Sean, because of the way that I got my ass kicked by betting this weekend. Because you know who I bet on? I bet on West Virginia. I bet on Colorado. I got my ass whooped. You want to know where I did that?
Where?
I bet online.
Oh, very nice. You pointed your finger at me again. That's fine, but if you want to make some bets, and if you're a dumb dummy like me, and if you're a dumb dummy like Joe, that just misses bets. But you think they're a good bet, so you can't even. Sometimes you can't even shake. Like that's a good bet. But you know what? If you want to do that, go to Bet Online. From week 1 all the way, we finished week 7 of college football, week 6 of the NFL. It's going in a flash. It's already mid-October. Head on over to Bet Online. What else are you doing this winter? Nothing. Fall baseball is going to be over soon, so you dads can get home. Fall soccer stinks. Any other fall sports? No. All the way to college football playoff and Super Bowl. Bet Online gives you access to the best football promotions and contests available anywhere online. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. I remember Gresh told me with the reads that you just see a lot, so you can just pick a couple of the numbers and blurbs to work through, but you never just interject nonsense in between. Remember to use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say before we do transition, your reads are, I don't know if they're better than mine. You definitely bring a lot more energy. The thing that I never get is you just bring up these really weird tangents and you start yelling about them. Like you're yelling about dads going to fall sporting events. Like, what the hell are you?
They should be gambling. That's what they should be doing.
All right, I want to start us off with the Notre Dame USC game. This one was funny because Sean hasn't been around me for a USC game in a while, or a Notre Dame game in a while. He got to deal with the brunt of it as he was trying to go to sleep, dealing with me in the hotel room in my underwear while you were trying to do work, and then transition from work to immediately getting in bed to trying to go to sleep. You had to deal with me throwing things, yelling, screaming at the TV. This was one of the most exciting wins that I've gotten to witness in a long time. I'm still not fully all bought in on the Marcus Freeman era. I think that there are still some questions that need to be answered. I don't think this game really tells me anything different about Notre Dame, Sean. I think that this just reaffirms what I knew. Their defense is really freaking good, and if they show up to play and their offense just finishes drives, they can stop some of the best offensive players in the country. And that's what they did. They did something that no team has done in Caleb Williams' whole career. The expectation when you play at USC is, let's see if we can go shot for shot with them because their defense stinks. And then maybe we get one good stop. But instead, they didn't really do anything offensively. They didn't expose USC's defense or anything. They managed to attack Caleb Williams, confuse him, fluster him to the point where he threw 3 back-breaking interceptions. That is something that we've never seen happen with Caleb Williams. That is not the expectation, that he is going to be the reason why they lose the football game. I give so much credit to Al Golden. That guy is a freaking genius. He looks like the biggest dork on the sidelines with his glasses, just the way that he's dressed. No drip, 0 drip from Al Golden.
Sure.
Golden, the guy who used to wear a button down and a tie on the sidelines when he was at Miami. I still love the guy. That is a defensive clinic, what we saw in this game.
You know what? This is about as happy as I think you can get. So I'm not going to take that away from you. I want to, but I can't because USC and their preparation for this game was piss poor. Lincoln Riley, piss poor. The defense, awful. Communication with the receivers on offense, bad. Caleb Williams running for his life all night. It was a bad, ugly scene for USC. I don't know if they were taking you lightly. I wouldn't have knowing that Notre Dame is just like it's like if you're a small town and you got a possum problem. That's what it's like. Because as soon as you get the possums locked up and you're like, okay, cool, no more possums. Here come the possums again. They break out and it's a roller coaster up and down season. They're in your garbage and they're scaring your dogs. And that's what they are. You never know what they're going to do. Maybe the possums are just going to stay and move on to another town, or they're just going to get locked out. Roller coaster season for Notre Dame. You can't tell me they're a great team. You can't tell me they're a bad team. They're just going to be good or a complete letdown because they're good enough to be a letdown. So looking at it, it's like, all right, great win. What are you going to do next week? Where does the bottom drop out again?
I think that they're on bye this upcoming week, but okay. So here's my problem, and the reason why I'm still on pause with Notre Dame and with Marcus Freeman, and if he's going to get this thing figured out, because and I said this, and I had someone actually commented why I thought this. I said that I feel very confident that eventually Marcus Freeman will figure it out, and that he is a great defensive mind. And that was on display. They showed up, schemed everything up perfectly. Him, Al Golden. I'm sure, I don't know what the level of influence is, but I'm sure that Marcus Freeman has some impact on that stuff. But despite the defensive prowess, they're just not consistent enough on a week-to-week basis to know that they're going to win those football games, especially the ones that they're supposed to win, like the Louisville game.
This is what it's going to be, Joe. This is what it's going to be in the Marcus Freeman era. It's going to be great heights and terrible valleys. That's what it's going to be. And if he settles in, that might be worse because you might be looking at 8 win year after year after year, whereas you could, if you have 1 year where you avoid a couple of the valleys or you just have one, then you're going to be in the CFP and you might have a really good team. If not, it's just going to be up and down, up and down.
I actually push back on that slightly. And Ryan Roberts, who is content's featured on this channel, we do the first team with him and Matt Sims. He said to me, someone brought up after last week's loss that he's James Franklin. You know, the team's just going to be just slightly above average enough that there's going to be years where you finish in the top 10. You're usually going to probably finish in that 12 range. And I think that this Notre Dame team this year, having been bumped up to 15 after the win, they're going to finish 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that range. They might end up losing to Clemson. I wouldn't put it past them because that game's on the road at Clemson. But why I have a problem with Marcus Freeman and why I've said I need to see him take that next step, because if they are that Penn State average type of a team on a year-to-year basis, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for Notre Dame. I get what you're saying, that there's going to be highs and lows, and the lows are, you have a shitty loss, but you play really good against teams that you're supposed to beat at home.
The lows are Marshall. That's the low.
I don't think we have that in our back pocket again. I really don't think that we have that coming for us.
You got some balls. You got some balls to say that about a college program.
Marcus Freeman was in his first year. Okay. I think that is not going to happen again. But I do think that the Louisvilles are going to happen all the time. I really do. I think that there's going to be Louisvilles, there's going to be Duke type losses.
Pretty close to the Marshall, Joe. That's pretty close. Because
it's not.
Louisville just got spanked by Pitt. We're getting there. All right. We're getting close to it.
By the way, I have to say that Louisville losing and going back and rewatching that ruins this USC game for me just a little bit. Not completely. I'm still happy because I hate USC, and I'm glad it ruins their season, and that Caleb Williams is probably removed from the Heisman conversation because of how bad he played. But that Louisville loss kind of kills it for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the Duke game. I'm thinking back to everything. This is the most Notre Dame I've watched in a season ever. And it's an enjoyable product because they're so volatile that it's like, all right, what are we going to see this get? What are we going to see?
You.
It's a mystery box. It's literally going to a hype beast store, getting a mystery box, and wondering if you got some off whites or if you just have some stupid Panda SBs. Like that's what we got.
I can't believe you compared Notre Dame to a possum problem. Your internet was lagging, but we could still hear you, and that had to have been perfectly timed internet disruption, by the way, of you comparing Notre Dame to a town possum problem. I don't. You managed to come up with new metaphors every single.
They
show.
Terrorize the public. That's what
What
Notre
do you know
Dame
about
does.
possums? What do you
know about Notre Dame?
Yeah. What? I don't know what to say back to that. Thoughts on USC though? It has to be not reiterated. They're the fourth best team in the Pac-12. I said at the beginning of the year, they're just an underwhelming abomination. Lincoln Riley should not have gotten hired as he did. You know, he shouldn't have been hyped up as this a savant coach that was going to take them.
Didn't he just have like 3 Heisman winners like consecutively?
But he's done it.
That deserves some hype, and he got another at USC. It deserves some hype.
But they have gotten completely bodied every time that they've been asked to play a tough game. Find me a good win in his career.
Let me think. I'm thinking for you. Hey, trust me, I'm thinking for you. If when Oklahoma had that one,
the years that they've been good enough to go to the playoff, they've got dicked down by everyone. I look. I'm not saying that like he's going to get fired or anything, but this is the look. Look, you lay your bed and then you got to sleep in it, man. That's the situation.
That's right. You lay your bed and then you have to sleep in it. You are a jackass. I remember waking up. I remember waking up before school and having my mom tell me, "Sean, before you leave, make sure you lay your bed because when you come home,
the hell up.
You want it to be nice and tidy so you can sleep in your laid bed." You're a moron.
Do you have any other thoughts on USC before we move?
It's just a disappointment. I mean, it's just who are they going to like? Are they going to? What's the solution for this?
You got to fire
recruit. Yeah.
No,
do they bring in a DC? What do they do? What is their solution from this?
The recruiting's not even really the issue because they've done fine. Actually, I did kind of say this that they haven't been great, but the transfer portal moves that they've made to bolster the defense, it's been up there with some of the other programs that revamp their defenses. They got to fire Grinch, which I
got a quick question for you. Who's going to have a better defense next year, Colorado or USC?
Colorado.
Yes. Is that a problem? And should it be?
What do you mean by is that a problem?
For USC.
Oh yeah, I mean that completely
I would consider
discredits
that
them.
A problem.
Yeah, it completely discredits them. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done talking about USC though. USC completely overrated.
Out of the picture. I mean, unless they run the table, but still, it's out of the picture. That's an awful loss to a decent team.
And they've also proven to us now that they're going to lose to somebody else. Like that is on tape. That's on tape now.
You could almost feel it in the air going into the game. It's like this might be the one where it all falls apart.
Oregon, Washington. So we have to talk about this. So for those that are reoccurring listeners of the show, Sean and I decided to do a bet. And the implications of the bet, we both had to grow out our facial hair. And then after the results of this game, I had Washington, Sean had Oregon. The loser of the bet had to keep growing their beard out. The winner got to shave. The problem is that I gave Sean 3 points because there was one moment of weakness. I shaved my neck and I trimmed it up a little bit. And I was willing to give him 3 points. Okay. I was willing to be nice here. And we were
no. That's not being nice. That is a decree for a bet. That is, look at this. You see this nonsense? This is worth 3 points. This mess right here is worth 3 points.
We were sitting at one of the worst pubs I've ever been to in my life. Okay.
Yeah.
And after that missed field goal, I stood up and I yelled, and I was so happy until Sean brought me back down to earth that the bet was a push because it was a 3-point win. So now we have to figure out what the next game is. Are we doing Toledo, Miami? We're going to figure that out off air.
It was a harrowing experience because I thought I was looking down the barrel, and I had been coming to grips with the idea of, you're in the bet. Here's the difference with me and Joe. Joe's been just like acting like he's already won the bet for the last month and a half. I've been looking at I have to grow this out till the new, like that's just my betting perspective. I'm always the negative. I looked at it, I said, well, I lost. And then I looked at the score and it took me about a minute. And I'm like, oh my God, we tied. It pushed. Oh my God, we have to do it again. Because if it was either both of us grow it out or both of us get to shave, we would have looked like wimps. It just would not have been a good ending to the bet.
The non-wimp thing would have been we both have to keep growing the thing out. That would have been the non-wimp thing because then that's
every bet needs a loser. Every bet needs a loser, at least between
both the loser. We're both the loser
agree.
in that situation.
I agree.
I kind of
I don't even need to handle it.
That.
I don't even need to. I don't mind handling it off air, but I'm already kind of married to the idea of the Miami, Ohio, Toledo game.
My only problem is that Miami of Ohio looked decent against Miami. And I think that I was willing to pick them because you immediately jumped on Toledo as soon as I brought that game up. I'm really worried about Toledo's quarterback. We're not here to talk about that game. We're going to figure out the game and we're going to announce it on the next preview show that we do. To specifically dissect this game, though, I just spent 20 minutes arguing with Blake, him saying that it was Oregon who lost the game, not Washington who won it. I don't think that's the case. Okay.
Why?
What? Look,
if Dan Lanning. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All I was going to say is if this was Washington slopping around for 4 quarters and then just going, oh, okay, look, we won the football game, and they just happened upon a touchdown late in the game. They both played a really good game. Dan Lanning was too aggressive, made some stupid mistakes being too aggressive, and kept being aggressive after the first ones didn't work out.
Yeah.
That was dumb. Yes.
Yeah. You proved the point right there. Dan Lanning, head coach of the Oregon football team, kept going for it on 4th down. He kept getting bailed out, and then he kept going for it. His playbook is not good enough. It's the same thing with Arthur Smith. They're the same coach. They can be brilliant, but when it comes to 4th down, their heads are up their asses, so they keep on going for it when there's points available. And they had 6 points available. They opted not to take it, even if they went 1 for 2 on those and still missed the field goal at the last second. Guess what? Still in overtime with a chance to keep playing. They make 1 more field goal instead of going for it. They win the game.
Okay, I get that, but at the same time,
Oregon losing it.
But they're giving
the game away. They gave the game away.
No, there were still 4 other quarters that were played, and when Washington needed to score and win an important spot, get that last touchdown, and stay in that football game, they were able to do it, and they did it. And they accomplished it. It is not like there were a bunch of silly mistakes that Oregon made that just gave the game away. Yes, bad coaching pulled them out of the game when they could have won the game. Yes, that freaking happened. But at the same time, Washington still showed me that they're an impressive ass football team.
I agree.
And that they can run the table and then they can finish the year undefeated.
They've been the wagon. You've seen, I completely understand what Washington is capable of. I completely buy in to the Washington wagon. Michael Penix Jr. is fantastic. Their receiving core can go up head-to-head with any other receiving core in America. They can at any school. But it really was, in that tight of a game, Oregon's coaching decisions that cost the game. Washington did win it. They still had to go down the field and score 36 points, which they did. But Oregon lost that game. Oregon lost it. They gave it away. Joe, when it's a 1-score game like that and it's that tight, I do have to side with Blake on this. It was Oregon's fault, the result. It was Dan Lanning's fault that they lost. It was. And Washington won it, but it really was an Oregon loss.
Again, I get that. But at the same time, I still really do think that this is very okay. For those reasons, I am not going to be out on Oregon. I think that if these two teams play each other again, there's probably a pretty good shot that Oregon wins the next time because it's hard to beat a good team twice, as we say a million times on this show. But at the same time, I'm still taking away from the positives for Washington. I don't think it's fair to take this away from Washington. That's my whole point here. I don't think
I'm
that
not
it's fair
trying to be.
take it
I'm not trying to be unfair, and I side with you on that because I saw Washington came in at 5, and I saw that the voters are cowards.
That
is
bullshit.
A top 4 team. They didn't drop Oregon. They dropped Oregon 1 spot to 9. That's fair. That's where they should be. Washington being at 5, and this is not a show where we scream about the polls or the rankings because I think that's a little bit hacky. But in this instance, Washington's top 4. Washington, after that win, should be top 4. I would put them at 3. Everyone else, figure yourself out.
Without a freaking doubt.
It's the best win all year.
Yes.
Any program. It's the best win. And I know I just said Oregon coughed it up, and they did, but it doesn't matter. It's the best win. It makes Florida State beating LSU look like kids playing basketball in first grade.
If we are just from the resume perspective, pulling the win, because they also, again, my whole point here is that Washington still looks really impressive in this game, the way that they played. A battle of 2 of the best teams in the country. Those are 2 of the best teams in the country. Yeah. As much as people don't want to admit that 2 of the best teams, there are 2 of the top 5 teams in college football right now. Like forget if we just took resume out, they're 2 of the most well-rounded, dominant teams that deserve a shot at the college football playoff. That win for Washington, despite the coaching errors, if we just pull up and say resume win, forget what happened in the entirety of it, that is, as you said, the best win of the season. The Oklahoma win is nice. The LSU win is nice for Florida State. Those are all nice wins. But we saw in that game that both of those teams, had they not played each other, maybe until the last game of the season, say they only met in the Pac-12 championship game, that would be 3 versus 4. That easily would be 3 versus 4, maybe even 2 versus 3.
It should be. And I look at it and I say, there's no way Michigan, Ohio State comes close to this game. And I know I'm casting for a month away. There's no way right now those 2 teams are as close together as Washington, Oregon is, and they're both in the top 4. And I say that it's not like we all watched it. We all watched that game. We've seen Ohio State struggling. Michigan's had cupcake after cupcake after cupcake this year. Why does it continue to be rewarded? This should be rewarded. This is a win that should be rewarded.
They need to be ahead of Ohio State. They
have a better quarterback. They have a better team. They should be.
UNC versus Miami, Sean. I'm not going to beat up on Miami fans because I said this on the other show. This isn't the I told you so type of a show.
I would say differently.
Not as much as AYS that I do with Blake or Rufino and Joe as I do with Blake.
Okay.
Tyler Van Dyke, I'm done talking about him. That's my whole point. We're just going to move past that. Mario Cristobal, he's going to eventually figure it out. It's the Billy Napier thing all over again. They're eventually going to figure it out. The recruiting has been good. Florida's 5-2 right now. Miami's 4-2, 5-2, whatever their records are. 2 losses at this point in the season, and beating up on the bad teams in your conference, finishing with 4 losses is good for a second-year coach after you have had just a horrible, horrible roster to pick things up from. This isn't the same circumstance as Marcus Freeman, who took over a team that was in the top 5 conversation the previous year before and had a bunch of good recruiting. Marcus Freeman's circumstance is different because he was already there recruiting. He was already putting that team together.
Closer to Ryan Day's circumstance.
Yeah. These guys are both in a position where they had to pick up that roster completely and figure it out. It was going to take some time. That's why I want to focus on North Carolina here. I think we need to start taking North Carolina more seriously because their defense showed up. They got after Van Dyke in that rushing attack. They forced 2 big turnovers. Their run game, which has been slow to get going, exploded. But more importantly, Tez Walker and Drake Maye, my God, that is a fantastic combo to watch. And they're going to win more football games because of the two of them.
I can see why UNC was pushing so hard to get Tez Walker eligibility. I can see that now. He's a stud.
Right.
And they're saying, look, fellas, you don't get it. This guy's different. You know me. I'm just humble, quiet Mac Brown. I'll stop taking shots at you. You just got to let me have this one. Like I can hear that phone call going on. But I'm not bought in. Why would I be? It's looking like the same UNC team as last year, where we didn't
they had
pay
no
attention.
defense last year.
They went 9-0 and then lost 3 straight.
No, they didn't. They lost
whatever they
Notre
were.
Dame. They got completely shafted.
Hold
by
on.
Notre Dame early last year.
Doesn't matter. They were rolling towards a true ACC. Like, who's going to come out of the ACC? Because Clemson was down. Florida State wasn't there yet. So
and then they got smoked in the ACC championship game by Club.
Where does it fall apart? Because they're going to fall apart.
They have. They
have the talent.
Winning.
They have the quarterback and they have the capability, but they're still North Carolina.
They're winning in a much more
harsh.
I think you are. They're winning in a much more aggressive manner than they were slow to get going. They almost lost to App State. Their defense was freaking atrocious last year. Their defense was a goddamn mess last year. And I think that they look not only competent, but aggressive and really problematic for opposing offenses.
Look,
I don't think that they beat Florida
Cedric
State.
Gray is my dude. I really like him manning that defense. I just have a history of watching this UNC team and thinking, wow, they could cause some problems. And then November comes and it gets a little chilly and they fall apart. And I'm not going to get duped again. I'm not going to. Stop trying to dupe me. I don't want to buy your solar panels. I got energy. Stop trying to dupe me.
I'm not buying your kitchen knife set. Hey, man.
That's what they feel like. They feel like a door-to-door salesman. Oh, look, none of your neighbors have ants because of us. So? I don't have ants. Are you going to give me ants and then I need to get rid of the ants with your service? Is that what's going on? You're talking to me at the door? You got your buddy unleashing the farm at the back door? I'm not buying the insect removal. That's what they are.
I think
the knife set.
Here's the difference, though, Sean. I can't come up with a counter analogy. I just can't. I wish I could. I don't know how I counter that. This isn't. I think with teams that deceive us early and shit the bed, there's usually some type of a weakness. Okay, there's usually some type of a weakness that we can kind of pull up and be like, that hasn't looked good. For example, USC. USC has an extremely talented offense, a bunch of first-round picks, but the whole time we're like, I don't know about that defense. And more aggressive folks like me were saying that defense is going to cost them. I just don't see what on that roster, what on that team, that coaching staff is going to hurt them. And to be clear here, I'm not saying that they're going to beat Florida State. I don't even think that they're going to win the ACC championship game. But I think that they can run the table with a pretty weak remaining schedule. Their toughest game is Clemson. I think they beat Clemson. I think they go undefeated and they lose in the ACC championship game to Florida State. And they're probably going to finish like 6 or 7. I just don't know. Because what's that weakness? The only thing I will actually maybe say, it was a little concerning how easily Miami got back into that game when they just started just throwing it like crazy. That secondary is a little shaky, but it's not bad enough for me to sit here and say, glaring weakness, that's going to cost them a football game.
Joe, I follow you. I'm tracking, but I'll go back to it. Last November, they beat UVA by 3, Wake Forest by 2 points. They lost to Georgia Tech. They lost by 3 to NC State.
They're not that team,
They lost to Clemson by 29.
But look at the difference, though, this year, where beat the crap out of Miami, beat the
Last
crap
year's
out of
mighty
Syracuse.
putty, it just didn't do the job well enough. This year, we added some more adhesive bonding, and now you can put mighty putty on your tractor trailer, and you can carry it across the nation.
No,
This year's mighty putty is better.
You know what you're doing? You know what you're doing? It's
what?
like you got your one buddy who decided to start going to the gym, and you're used to him being the scrawny friend, and you're like, I know he's always the scrawny friend. And maybe you don't see him for a year, whatever. And he shows back up and he's jacked. And you're sitting here going, no, he's still not that strong, still really scrawny. But meanwhile, he's way more jacked than he was last year. Put some goddamn respect on the work that they did in the offseason.
Not yet. Not yet. Win in November. And they lost to Georgia Tech last year.
That's last year. That's last year.
It's going to happen this year because you're saying they could run the table. The only thing that they should worry about is Clemson. Why? Why is that the only team they should worry about? They have to play Georgia Tech. Dude, they have the same.
Georgia Tech sucks.
They have Virginia, Georgia Tech, Duke, Clemson, NC State.
You're naming a bunch of nothing teams. You're naming a bunch of nobodies.
They could lose to every single. They have the possibility. They have
You're
the
on
capability.
crack.
They have the You know what, buddy? Stay in the Matrix. Go ahead. You stay in it. I got a free mind. I'm floating.
The Matrix is assuming that UNC.
It's got you, but it's got you. You're sitting here. It's nice in here. This is not bad. This ain't bad. It's better than outside. I'll stay in here. Nice and cozy.
All right, getting to other thoughts from the weekend. Wanted to pull this one up before we get to the football thoughts. So Ron says, I saw this comment in there. These guys must have had a hard night of drinking in Brookings. Not on Saturday. We were responsible. I have to just very as simply as I can put it, our night on Friday. First of all, shout out to Chad and Brendan. We hung out with them.
All the guys, yeah.
Very chaotic grouping because we're just two 25-year-old idiots walking around with a bunch of guys in their mid-30s. We did not look like we belonged hanging out. We were
definitely outsiders.
Yeah. The night was summed up by the fact that every bar that we showed up to, and I think we went to like 5 different ones, every single one of them sold Twisted Tea in the tall boy cans, and every single time we ordered a tall boy Twisted Tea. I don't know why. I don't know why we were so bought in on that bit. It was a great bit.
We were bonding over Twisted Teas and our love for them. We were discussing how Twisted Tea is our wine. The ladies will like a nice, Chardonnay, something nice, take the edge off, and then me and Joe enjoy a nice Twisted Tea to get an absolute goblin mode and just be a menace. I don't know how many times I asked you to jump and try to hit that awning. You did it about a dozen. You never got it. And I kept on offering a $5. I'm sitting here. How many Twisted Teas is it going to take for him to hit it? All night. Yeah. It's dangerous. It was. Yeah. Thanks, Ron. Yeah, it was a weekend. It was definitely a weekend.
Oh my God, I had another comment, but I'm completely blanking on what it was. It was a fun time though. I'm glad that we ended up going to Brookings. All right, other football thoughts that we do have. We do have a couple comments we'll maybe get to at the end.
Yeah.
Your first one that you wrote down here talking about Tennessee.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think UNC actually took the brunt of my thought for Tennessee. Tennessee has one loss and they're sitting at 19, and they should. I really like the process where we're learning from our mistakes of last year, because we know Tennessee isn't legit. We know they can win some games. We know that they can beat most of the SEC, most of the Big 12, most of the Big 10, right? We most of the ACC, most of the back. Like, we know they can beat most teams in the country. But I think they're sitting at 19. They should stay there. Maybe they could move up to 14. That's cool with me. But nobody's buying in, which I appreciate. This is one of the teams where I'm like, hey, where's your win? What are you doing, dude?
Well, not to mention the fact that
there's no faith.
Their win against Texas A&M might be the ugliest, most terrible win over a bad football team that I have seen in a long time. I tried to rewatch. I didn't get eyes on this because we were at the South Dakota State game. I went back, rewatched the condensed version.
Sure.
I
Was it
wish
fun?
I watched it on 2 times speed, and I still wish I got my time back that
I
I
bet you couldn't
wasted.
even see the balls coming out of Joe Milton's hand. You couldn't even see it.
That
Two
that's my
times
hack,
speed.
by the way. That's my hack is when I'm trying to rewatch as many games as possible, I'll put them all on like 1.75 2 times speed, and I'll go back and rewatch all of them.
You watch Taylor Heineke on 2 times speed. He looks like an NFL quarterback.
Dude, I neither of these teams were trying to win this football game.
No.
Neither one of them wanted to win that game. Here
I think
is
Heupel's a good coach. It's just not the year, and don't let it be the year.
Joe
'cause
Milton's
you
keeping
don't
them
have
down.
it.
Here's the thing that's awful, though.
Huh.
They won. Their record looks good. Do you know who they play this weekend? They play
this upcoming
Alabama.
weekend?
They
Oh,
play
yeah.
Alabama. So now what we're going to have happen is they're going to beat Alabama's going to beat them because Alabama's horrible. They're not good. They're just bad. They're really bad, and I'm tired of acting like they're good. But you won't be able to say that they're bad because they're going to have another ranked win. Another ranked win over a team that shouldn't be ranked. The SEC has caused so much goddamn chaos because we're riding off of the name brand. We're riding off of the notoriety, and it's just ruining the polls. It's absolutely ruining the polls.
Maybe we are a
to
poll
stop.
screaming show. Here's what I'm already telling you, and I'm getting ahead early, right? Saban is going to be on a war path to get in that CFP after they beat Tennessee. He's going to start pitching on Sunday at 1 a.m. It's going to
beat LSU.
be. I understand, but look, they're going to be at 5 again at the end of the season, and Alabama fans are going to think they got shafted when they don't deserve to be in the top 4. That's what we're setting up for with this win over Tennessee, which they will get. I agree. And if Tennessee wins, then they win out, and then there's going to be 7 still thinking that they should have gotten in.
My final thought, and then maybe we'll hit some of these comments. I tweeted this. We are being deprived of what could be one of the worst college football playoffs ever. There is, if the college football playoff was 12 teams this year,
sure.
Do you realize that Iowa could run the table, lose the Big Ten championship game, make the playoff? That Air Force runs the table, makes the playoff. And then also, I didn't even think of this. I'm thinking of this now. A mediocre Alabama team makes it. And then possibly, maybe we can make the argument for some other really mediocre teams like USC, like Notre Dame, that would just kind of maneuver their way in. And we could have possibly have had this year one of the worst displays of football being played in the college football playoff.
The 12-team
I don't want to hear, by the way, I like the 12-team playoff idea. I'm a supporter of it. But this year is not an example for why the parity is good. It is the complete fucking opposite. It is not by any stretch of the imagination proof that we need the playoff because there's so many good teams. No, there's too many bad ones, and this year would completely ruin the argument for support for it.
The CFP guys last year would they would mock up, like Ross would mock up, or someone would mock up a hypothetical 12-team playoff as it stands right now. And some of the matchups sounded awesome. Like you're getting a home game of Utah, you're getting crazy games up north in Michigan. Like you're getting these crazy games, and that's like this is going to be great. This year, I don't know. I haven't seen many of those mock-ups. I haven't seen many of the projected. Let's just get 4 in here, fellas, because we know 5 ain't going to do the job. Number 5, whoever's sitting at 5 is not going to be shafted. They're going to be saying like, we'll take 5.
The reason why no one's putting those projections together this year is because some social media guy, some graphics guys, like, let's put one together, and then it sends it over to the head of social. Yeah, let's not post this. Let's not. This is no, we don't need to have that conversation. This is going to put too much toxicity out there on the.
Don't let JMU go undefeated either. They're going to be making a push for 2 G5s.
Dude, honestly.
I beat you to it, Ron. Jerk off. Sorry, Ron. You're great. You're great.
Quick couple comments. Wish they would go to the FCS format. Look, 24 teams just doesn't work. for FBS. It just doesn't. It works for FCS because I think that we have enough quality teams across the board, but because of the talent gap, and I'm talking about like talent of recruits, the level of like rosters, the best teams, the number one team is just so much better than the 24th team that it would create so much of a gap. And the problem is too that 24th team that makes the playoff isn't the 24th best team in the country. It's the team that wins the Sun Belt. It's not going to produce.
Or it's
right.
Boise. Wyoming might sneak up there. It's someone from the Mountain West that had a really good season and they're there, but they're still not the best G5 team. It works better with the FCS because aside from the top 4 teams each year, maybe even only just the top 2 who could be real buzzsaws. Everyone else is just kind of barnyard enough where anything can happen in the games and the matchups for the rest of the seeding. So I think that's an astute point, Joe.
This was brutal.
Way to be. Yeah, I agree. Joe was taking shots at my mustache this week, seeing me in person, and oh my God, you wouldn't believe what Joe looks like in person. He's got this fancy camera.
All right,
touching him up. Oh, hideous beard.
Don't disrespect.
I know. I'm Charlie Neckbeard right now, and I get it, and I'll own it.
We need to get you a fedora at Joe DeLeone at Sanderson Radio. We'll be back with more, folks.
You're a piece of garbage.
Enjoy the rest of your night.